Welcome to the Unlist. Let's talk about superlatives, right? In reference to fragrances, obviously, and more specifically, superlatives used when we're discussing fragrances in the online fragrance community. So this is a video in the same theme and pattern as some of my past FragCom discourse videos, like my video on cognitive dissonance, my video on confirmation bias, my older videos on hype. So the point of discussing superlatives is just, once again, about giving some of you guys a little more self-awareness. Not that I need you to be insecure and hyper-aware and be constantly vigilant about what others think of what you say and do. That's not it. There's a balance to everything, right? There's always a gray area. Nothing is black and white. But I feel like because fragrance is an emotional experience for some people, because our nose and our memory are very linked, right? Smells are linked to memory very strongly, and memories themselves can evoke feelings of nostalgia, wistfulness, yearning, right? People can miss things about their past. So fragrances, which are often windows into that past, especially for vintage collectors and vintage enthusiasts, people in the modern day who are just buying contemporary perfumes sold at Nordstrom or Bloomingdale's or the Macy's counter, people who are looking into influencers and grabbing the latest banger, wearing it for 6 months and then selling it to somebody to buy the next latest banger, and that constant relevance, clout, drip, rizz, whatever you call it, that whole social media zeitgeist. If you're sucked up into that, this video probably doesn't apply to you as much because you're not concerned about tapping into those memories. You're not concerned about eliciting those emotions, because for you, fragrance is a means to an end. It's a way to get attention, validation, to signal that you're open for business if you're dating with the fragrance, trying to impress somebody. It's all a weird concoction of social proof and status signaling and sexual courtship for some people. It's all about being in the now. Ironically, in 10 to 20 years, what you're currently doing will become the nostalgia you'll experience later. And all of your wearings of Aventus and BR 540 and Dior Sauvage or Paco Rabanne 1 million, all of that will turn into the nostalgia you then yearn for when you're older. So maybe you should still watch this video, because a decade or two from now, assuming we're all still alive, right, assuming the world doesn't burn up, you might want to reflect back and say, hey, yeah, I understand what that guy was talking about 20 years ago on YouTube, which may not even be around anymore by then, who knows. But you get my point, right? So when we have these emotional responses and we're trying to gratify the expression of those emotions, right? Trying to satisfy ourselves and expressing how the fragrances make us feel. A lot of times we latch on to the simplest way to release that energy, right? To get those endorphins, to get that serotonin drip in your brain. So catchphrases, which are often superlatives, hence the title of the video, are very good for this. We latch onto them. They're easy. They're understood. They become shorthand, right? They become shorthand for the way we feel. Not necessarily the way we think, but the way we feel. They become shorthand for the way we feel. And we say them, people understand what we mean, and we can save the rest of our mental energy for something else. Like, I don't know, actually enjoying the fragrance, maybe. It's possible, right? Not everybody wants to be Tolstoy or Steinbeck. Not everyone wants to write War and Peace. So, Grapes of Wrath. Every time they wear a perfume. Sometimes they just want to go, blah, blah, like that. And that's it. Blah, blah. They want to go, blah, blah. And that's their emotional vomit onto the computer screen, right? their emotional vomit onto TikTok or Fragrantica forums or Bass Notes or wherever it is. They're going blah, 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 but they want to go blah, and that's it. This is how they feel. They spray it on, they go, oh, oh, blah, and that's it, just vomits out. And that's fine, it's valid. Clearly I do that. I just did it like 4 times on camera. So we all do that. That's just natural human function. We don't bleat like animals, right? We don't crow and bark and meow. So we have a little more sophisticated form of communication than animals do. But even still, the human equivalent of a bark, of a meow, of some kind of bleat would be a superlative, right? Would be a catchphrase that is minimal in effort to speak, but maximum in what it expresses. Now, what's bad about this, hence me doing the video, is sometimes we say things without truly understanding what they're communicating to other people, because they feel gratifying and they feel easy to say, and they express a whole lot in a very little package. But sometimes there is the between the lines meaning to those words, and they send people down rabbit holes. And you may not be empathetic to care about who you send down a rabbit hole. I'm not saying you should be worried about other people having maladaptive behaviors to what you do online. That, again, that's not it. I'm not trying to make you a nervous wreck here. That's not my goal. But I feel like a tiny bit of self-awareness in this regard, just a little bit, like a drop, just a little eyedropper of self-awareness in your word choices, your language choices, your use of superlatives, once again, point of the video. That little tiny drop can have miles and miles of effect on you. And it can not only gain you a lot of respect from other people, but it can help you stand out from all the noise, all the white noise of people who use these superlatives in their everyday discussion on Bass Notes, on Fragrantica, and in YouTube comment sections. Because if you use these words more judiciously, aware of their nuance, right? There's a good word for you. If you use these terms with awareness of their nuance, awareness of that between the lines meaning they have, and you can use them less frequently and only when they truly fit what you're trying to say, and maybe just use some normal adjectives in between. Not everything has to be a hyperbolic statement, right? Not everything has to be this overt expression of thing that you're trying to state. Not everything has to be that. You can have that gray area opinion that it's not black, it's not white, it's somewhere in the middle. You can have that opinion and still really feel strongly about the thing that you're opining about, right? About the thing of which you're opining, if I'm going to use proper English here. Can't end a sentence in a preposition, right? So you can do that. You can feel strongly about something, but temper your words with the knowledge that what you say could give somebody a maladaptive reaction to it. And how that's important is with superlatives, you know? And I'm not policing you, so if you just ignore what I say, and you continue to do what you're going to do regardless, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you that you can't call every fragrance a masterpiece, which is a superlative, by the way. That's one example. I'm not going to tell you that you can't call every rare fragrance a hidden gem. I'm not doing that. Make no mistake. I am not telling you you can or can't do anything, because your lips, your tongue, your brain, you do you. All I can do is give you advice. But from my experience, and I reap the rewards of what I sow by practicing what I preach, mind you, okay, by avoiding frequent use of superlatives, by avoiding constantly calling everything the greatest thing or the worst thing ever, by tempering what I say and trying to have a more reasonable, rational, calm expression of my feelings in what I'm discussing with fragrances, I note that in return, people do trust what I say a bit more. People do respect my opinion a bit more. People see me as more approachable. Because when you're someone who hems and haws, and everything is like this all the time, You're just always, oh, I love it, I hate it, it's the worst, it's the best, right? Well, for one, you come across a little bit unhinged, right? You do. Let's be honest here. You come across a little bit unhinged. You come across a little bit socially naive, I guess. You come off a little bit immature. You want to get right down to brass tacks and not sugarcoat it. So you want to have that maturity, especially for someone who is older, right? You're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. You want to have that maturity. You want to have that respect. Well, guess what? Throwing around a bunch of superlatives and using hyperbolic language every chance you get to describe everything you love or hate, when the chances are pretty high that you don't love or hate everything. Sometimes it's just a like. Sometimes it's just a dislike, right? By tempering your words and using superlatives when they only truly well apply, you can be taken a bit more seriously, guys, right? You'd be surprised. You get taken a bit more seriously. Now, that's not saying you can't joke. Again, I'm not policing you. I'm not saying you can't joke. You can't make fun of a fragrance or make fun of how it's used or how it's over applied or, you know, I always point the mirror at the fragrance community. I make fun of the people who obsess over batches, people who obsess over individual materials like oak moss or whatever, or animalics. People, just in the same way I, make fun of folks who obsess over compliments and stuff and getting laid. Because, yeah, I'm sure there is a part of the MO of wearing a fragrance is for that kind of attention, but it isn't for every single time you use it. Not everybody who's wearing a perfume 24/7 is trying to get some. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So, again, not telling you can't do any of this stuff, but let me give you an example of some superlatives and what I think should be replacements for them, right? This is having that social awareness I was telling you about, that ability to step back and analyze critically what you're saying and why you're saying it. All right, so for example, the masterpiece. The people who constantly say everything rare and discontinued is a masterpiece. Oh, this bottle of Luciano Pavarotti, this was a discontinued gem, an absolute masterpiece, right? And then I smell it, and I'm like, okay, it's like Givenchy Gentleman, which is a good fragrance. I love Givenchy Gentleman, granted. But this is like also ran, and it has some honey in it. So it's a little smoother, a little sweeter than Givenchy Gentleman from '74. I can understand why it didn't do well, because it came out in the 90s. We were way past that style in the 90s, way past that style. I can understand why it didn't do well. But it's a good fragrance. It's good. It's not $400 good, which is what it currently sells for, right? It goes for, it used to be 40, 50 bucks all day, right? All day, every day, 40, 50 bucks. Now it's like $400 fucking dollars. And it's because, see, it's because of all the people going, masterpiece, oh, and it's like, no, it's not. It's like you're having a knee-jerk reaction to the enjoyment of this fragrance because you probably didn't smell it before, right? And you blind bought it, because a lot of people do blind buy these FOMO. Again, my video on FOMO frenzy, I talk about that too. People hear these big trumped up things that get hyped up, and then they run out and they buy it, and then they're already psyched up, right? Again, it's that Stockholm syndroming I'm telling you about, where they kind of like mentally condition themselves to love the thing before they've ever smelled it. Before they even know what it is, they automatically love it before it's even come out of the bottle yet. Then they spray it and they're like, oh, like this, right? And I can just imagine them sitting at their computer desk, like smelling it and going, like this, right? Having like a little mini orgasm over perfume. And then they're on for granted, go, oh, it's a masterpiece, in all caps, masterpiece, oh, right? And I'm like, okay, your emotions are valid, but you don't have the self-awareness to realize how wildly overexpressing you are right now of your opinion to everyone online. You might even live with that bottle you bought, which you paid $400 for, right? And then 6 months from now, you might go back and spray it and be like, it's good. I mean, yeah, right? You're used to it. You've acclimated to it. So what I would do if I were you, instead of saying masterpiece, right, is I would sit a while, right? You don't have to instantly knee-jerk write a review when you smell a fragrance. I don't do it. People send me samples, right? And sometimes I'll sit with the sample for a couple of weeks. And since I have a lot of things to review, I always have something that I can write about. So I don't have to write about the thing I just got sent, right? The thing that I just smelled. I can sit a bit. You know, usually there's enough in the sample to spray it multiple times anyway. And if it's a bottle you bought, you've got a whole bunch of juice. Now you got 100 ml of juice. You bought the whole bottle. So why not just take a minute, right? Take a breather on that. Really let it sink in and then figure out what you think about it. You don't have to like wear it for 6 months. That's not it. People who tell you you need to own a fragrance for years and wear it 100 times in order to have an opinion, that's stupid. I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying really sit and think about your words, right? Don't knee-jerk it with the masterpiece because it's probably not. In the long run, the real masterpieces, the things that you completely love and will love for likely the rest of your life, and everyone else will universally agree with you that it's a exceptional fragrance, those things filter out of the woodwork sooner or later, right? The Eau Sauvages of the world, the Overused of the world, the Ralph Lauren polos, right, of the world. Those things come out of the woodwork and present themselves as what they are, right? Not every single B-list, C-list, D-list tier, forgotten celebrity, designer, drugstore fragrance that you've never smelled in your life, but it's giving you a mini orgasm. Not every single one of those can be a masterpiece. Because then if they're all masterpieces, then none of them are masterpieces. They can't all be masterpieces. Not all of them. So, again, that's why I say sit and think about it, right? Don't just knee-jerk that superlative. Another one I see a lot is hidden gem. Hidden gem. Well, here's another one that I think gets overused because superlative, hidden gem, implying that you discovered something that no one else could find. It's hidden. You had to go through some great thing to acquire it. You had to go Indiana Jones and digging for the Ark of the Covenant or whatever, or the Holy Grail, and you found it. But you just went on eBay and bought a bottle because you read in the comments somewhere that it was really good. Then you watched a YouTube video on it. Then you went on Fragrantica or Base Notes and looked it up. Then you Googled it and you probably read about it, and it's not all that hidden. It's been there the whole time. It's really not hidden, especially in 2024, guys, especially with social media. The moment anybody finds anything and they talk about it, everyone in their immediate circle who's paying attention sees it. Now you've got 50 people who know about this fragrance. Then each one of them maybe runs out, samples and or buys it, talks about it, makes a post, writes a review. Each one of them has got 50 to 100 or more eyeballs on them. So it just exponentially fans out like a ripple in a pond. So that one hidden gem, air quotes, hidden gem that you just bought, 1,000 people now know about it and probably all have sampled or bought it within a month or two period of time. So if it really was hidden, if it truly well and was hidden, and you were the first person on the block to find it, you were the Indiana Jones, right, that struck gold, you're not anymore. Because now the whole neighborhood knows about it. It's like the thing from Mulan. All of China now knows you're here, right? That meme with the guy and the flames. That's it. You discover the fragrance and talk about it. Now all of China knows the fragrance. It's not hidden anymore, guys. Not in 2024. So instead, let's just call it like we see it. Let's not put perfume on a pig. Hidden gem, it is not. What it is, ignored. It's an ignored fragrance. It's obscure. okay, and ignored. It's a fragrance that it is, or at least was, if discontinued, right? Discontinued, was commonly available, but a lot of people ignored it. That's what they are. They're not hidden because anybody can find them. They're all, again, all over Amazon, all over eBay. Maybe it's still in production. So if it's still in production, you're able to get it from Fragrance Net, Fragrance X, whatever. Your perfume shop of choice. Just discontinued. You got to go to marketplace sites to get it, like Bonanza, Mercari, eBay, Etsy, stuff like that. But it's still commonly out there. Whether the price is going to be good or not is depending on, you know, resellers and the scalping that they do, which that's a whole nother thing, right? That's irrelevant to this video, but the scalping may make it a unicorn for some people. And that's another superlative. I will finish the video with that. But before we talk about unicorns, let's talk about the hidden gems. They're not hidden, they're just ignored. Because everybody who posts that bottle of Derek by Orlan, everyone who posts that bottle of Carlo Corinto, everyone who posts that bottle of Homme de Café, right? Everyone who posts that bottle of Jaguar for Men, everyone who posts that bottle of Cycle by Otto Kern, Quartz Homme by Molyneux, everyone is seeing those posts. Every time that person who wears that oddball fragrance, you know, that bottle of Homme de Café, like I said, every person who puts Taxi by Coffin Lux as their scent of the day, okay, I'm wearing Taxi today. People see it. It's not hidden. Everyone saw you wear Taxi. Everyone saw that. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. It's not a hidden gem. It's just ignored. That's all. And you can blab about it until people pay attention to you, especially if you're an influencer, right? You've got a lot of followers. But otherwise, it's not hidden. It's just ignored. Now, unicorns. That's another one. The whole idea of a unicorn is an unobtainable thing you chase after for a very long time, and eventually you may get it. It's Captain Ahab's whale, the white whale he chases after, right? That's what a unicorn is. It's this thing that you've spent so much of your time, blood, sweat, and tears, chasing after, and in most cases, you never get it. Or if you do get it, it's just one, and that's it. It's truly extraordinarily difficult to attain, and you have invested an inordinate amount of time you will never get back to get it. But we've changed that to mean anything expensive. If it's expensive, if it's getting scalped, if it's hard to find, but not really hard to find, it's just expensive. You Google search it, it pops right up, but it's $400 because one asshole has got all the supply left in the world, right? That's a unicorn now. And I'm guilty of that myself. I am definitely guilty of that myself. So not all of those are unicorns either. They're just victims of bad faith resellers. There's a lot more of those bottles in the wild than you think. It's just all of them are in the hands of a few people. There are still lots of Petit Pour Homme bottles out there, guys. There's still lots of Gucci Envy bottles out there. Lots. It's just all the people with deep pockets have hoarded them all up, and they control the supply, right? Corporations do it all the time with products, right? It's how we get these little bubbles with the graphics cards, for instance, right? And all that stuff. So individuals are doing it with perfumes because perfumes are, in the greater scheme of things, right? In the greater scheme of things, perfumes are pretty insignificant compared to food, shelter, medical care, all that stuff. So individual bad actors who hoard up all the perfumes to try and flip them for a profit, no one's really regulating their activity because it's perfume. But those are unicorns, and they're not all really. Scarcity in that regard is actually an illusion. So that's it, guys. Superlatives, you know what to do. If you like the video, let me know. If you don't like the video, you can also let me know politely, and I'll catch you next time.